The Zero Realm split open under Lin Jin's feet. It had been born as a boundary. But boundaries are not walls unless fear makes them so. Beneath the battlefield, beneath the cracked chain tower and the shining lost seat, beneath every city that had answered its own name, the Zero Realm revealed its deeper shape. It was a place where choices left marks. Every refusal, every rescue, every selfish bargain confessed too late, every hand extended with no guarantee. The realm held them all. Not as judgment, but as texture. Humanity had been writing a world with every impossible decision. Now the Civilization Devourer had arrived to read it. It did not speak like the Starlords. It consumed meanings before they became language. The sky beyond the 9th Starlord opened into a mouth with no teeth. Because teeth would have implied a body. Stars vanished at its edge without explosion. The conquered cities inside the 9th Starlord went silent, terrified of something even their ruler feared. Jiang Yue whispered, "That is not a Starlord." Lin Jin answered, "No, that is what follows them." The Devourer fed on civilizations that reached their final shape. Worlds that became perfect machines. Worlds that became endless wars. Worlds that became gardens with no wild growth. Once a civilization stopped changing, the Devourer could swallow its meaning whole. The 9th Starlord had survived by making its worlds predictable. Now it had led the Devourer to a world that was not. Lin Jin stood before the split Zero Realm and felt the old throne calling again. Not as command, as solution. Sit once. Just once. Unite humanity. Strike the Devourer with a single will. End the argument before the mouth arrives. Behind him, people were afraid enough to accept it. That was the most dangerous part. The royal court leader said what others would not. If there is a moment for temporary absolute authority, this may be it. Jiang Yue snapped. That sentence should be illegal. So should extinction. The argument began again. Raw and immediate. Some wanted emergency power. Some refused. Some asked whether refusing a ruler mattered if everyone died free for only 3 more minutes. Lin Jin listened. The Devourer came closer. Then he stepped away from the throne-shaped light inside the Zero Realm. No. The word did not silence anyone. Good. I will not sit the throne for 1 minute and call it temporary. Every permanent chain in history began as an emergency someone promised to end. The royal court leader lowered her eyes. Then what do you offer? Lin Jin looked toward Xiaoman. Resonance. She understood before the adults did. The half door behind her opened wider than it ever had. Not to let something in, but to let human worlds speak sideways. Every safe zone, every shelter, every route, every family channel, every corrected fate record, every ash name, every court archive, every prison fire memory. Not one will, many wills. Refusing to become a final shape. The Zero Realm asked for a rule. Lin Jin shook his head. Not from me. He gave the question to the cities. 7 cities answered badly at first. Contradictory rules collided. Defend children first, defend roots first, protect the wounded. Strike the Devourer. Save the conquered civilizations. Abandon the Starlord. Rescue everyone. Rescue our own. The Zero Realm nearly tore apart. Then Xiaoman shouted over every channel. Stop trying to sound noble. Say what you actually mean. That worked better than strategy. People began admitting the truth. They wanted their own families saved first. They hated the Starlord's victims for being dangerous. They wanted revenge. They wanted mercy and were ashamed of it. They wanted someone else to decide. Then remembered what that cost. The realm absorbed the honesty. Honesty did not make them pure. It made them reachable. Red Prison's final fire reacted first. The old punishment core, now burning itself into nothing, turned from red to white. It had been built to make pain useful. The Zero Realm rewrote it with the consent of those who had suffered there. Pain may warn. Pain may witness. Pain may never again be harvested as proof of ownership. The fire surged into the Devourer's mouth. The creature paused. It could consume endings. It did not understand wounds that refused to become purpose. The ninth Star-Lord saw a chance and tried to seize the Zero Realm from the side. Its wounded true body pushed through the crack, offering its conquered cities as shields. Lin Jin reached for the roots again. I cannot save you without your help. For a terrible moment, nothing answered. Then one conquered city broke formation. Its citizens stopped walking in perfect lines. One person looked up. That was enough. The second Zero Rule found them. No rescue may require the rescued to stop being themselves. Memory erupted inside the Star-Lord. Xiaoman drove the half-door into the opening and began closing it around the child channels the Star-Lord had stolen across civilizations. Not only Earth's children, others. Glass world children, river moon children, children born in cities that had forgotten lullabies. The strain nearly killed her. Lin Jin ran to her side. Xiaoman, stop. Number. You don't have to hold all of them. I'm not holding all of them. She smiled through blood. I'm teaching them where the door is. Across the Star-Lord's body, small doors opened. Children remembered fear, then anger, then names. Their worlds began to move unpredictably, and the Devourer's mouth recoiled. A final shape had become unfinished again. The ninth Star-Lord screamed. It tried to crush Xiaoman's door. Lin Jin stepped between them and paid with 20 years of stored boundary light. Su Wanning's root wrapped around the half-door. Jiang Yue fired his last cannon and then threw the empty weapon because symbolism mattered to him. When ammunition ran out, the Zero Realm stabilized. 7 cities resonated, not in harmony, in argument. The Devourer could not swallow the sound because the sound had no final meaning. Lin Jin stood at the center of the resonance and finally understood the opposite of a throne. Not chaos. Participation. He raised both hands. We do not become one. The cities answered. We remain many. The Devourer struck. The Zero Realm cracked to its deepest layer. And inside that crack, the final rule began to form. Before the rule could complete, the ninth Star-Lord tried one final deception. It released the voices of the worlds it had conquered. They did not beg for freedom. They begged for order. That nearly broke the alliance. It was one thing to rescue victims who cried out against their chains. It was another to hear those victims plead for the chains to stay. Because the open air beyond them looked too large, too cold, too full of responsibility. Some human commanders hesitated. If they choose obedience, the royal court leader said quietly. Does the Zero Rule allow us to interfere? No one answered quickly. That was how they knew the question mattered. Lin Jin looked at the conquered cities inside the Star-Lord's body. Some had forgotten freedom so completely that rescue felt like violence. Some would hate the hands reaching toward them. Some might return to their ruler the moment the door opened. Xiaoman lowered her head. A door isn't a command to leave. Lin Jin nodded. Then we open it anyway. The alliance changed tactics. They stopped pulling. They opened exits. White prison routes appeared beside conquered streets. Witness rings recorded the choice without pressure. Red prisons rewritten fire warmed the thresholds but did not push. The ash registry promised names to those who wanted them and silence to those who were not ready. The first city refused. The second refused. The third sent one person. One person crossed the threshold and collapsed under the weight of having an unassigned future. Human medics caught them. That single rescue did not justify the risk. It did not need to. The Zero Realm absorbed the act and added a clause to the forming rule. Freedom offered without ownership remains freedom. Even when refused. The ninth Star-Lord recoiled as if struck. It had prepared for rebellion. It had not prepared for patience. The Star Sea pressed the cities flat against their own fear. South Wall lost the eastern shield. White Prison lost 2 roots. Red Prison's fire became a thin white line and then a memory of heat. The Royal Court Archive City opened its last shelter vaults and found not weapons, but letters. Generations of private records. Apologies. Inheritances. Betrayals. Lullabies. Proof that even the powerful had once been afraid children with careful handwriting. The 7 cities spoke the same name. Human. Not as a species category. Not as a banner. As a claim. The Devourer recoiled. Then adapted. It stopped trying to consume the whole civilization and began cutting away futures. One by one. Possible tomorrows vanished. A rebuilt South Wall. Gone. A school in the 3rd safe zone. Gone. Xiaoman grown older. Laughing at a table with too many bowls. Gone. Lin Jin felt each future disappear like a finger closing around his throat. Then his parents returned to position. His father stood at the boundary. His mother's memory stood inside the family channel. She was not alive in the simple way Lin Jin wanted. The gate had preserved her through choices. Letters. Witness fragments. And the shape she had left in the people who loved her. It was not enough. It was also more than nothing. She looked at him and said, "Do not chase every future. They're taking them. Then protect the right to make new ones." Lin Jin placed his palm against the boundary beside hers. "Your mother always said the future is not a museum. Stop trying to preserve every room." Lin Jin laughed while crying, which felt unfair but accurate. Jiu Changyi's last page appeared then. It should have been gone. He had burned the archive blade, spent the ash registry, and left only enough of himself for one final message. The page unfolded in the air, covered in handwriting so cramped and sarcastic that Jiang Yue recognized it immediately. "Of course he wrote a last page," Jiang Yue said. "He probably wrote 3 and hid 2 to annoy us posthumously." The page contained no grand strategy, only a list people Jiu Changye had trusted to disobey him. At the bottom was Lin Jin's name. Beside it, one sentence: "If you find yourself necessary, become replaceable immediately." Lin Jin stared at the words. That was the final shape of the anti-throne. Not refusing responsibility, distributing it until no single person could be turned into a key. He opened every command channel he still held and began giving them away. Not abandoning them, handing them to councils, routes, shelters, medical teams, children old enough to speak for younger ones, prisoners representing prisoners, court archivists under public witness, soldiers under civilian veto in evacuation zones. The systems resisted. They had been built to concentrate power because concentration was efficient. The Zero Rules rewrote them because efficiency had lost its right to be sacred. Xiaoman's half door became many small doors. The Nameless took one and stood before the deepest gate. "I will guard this." Lin Jin asked, "Can you do it alone?" The Nameless answered, "No." Then they smiled, barely visible through the blur. "That is why I am qualified." Members of the 7th team stepped forward. They had been broken, scattered, reassigned, nearly killed, and repeatedly told that their formation no longer existed. They disagreed. A team, Jiang Yue declared, was not invalidated by death, bureaucrats, or common sense. So the 7th team did not disband. They took positions around the Nameless gate, not as legendary guardians, as tired people with bad knees, empty magazines, stubborn habits, and enough love to stand in the wrong place at the right time. The Devourer cut away another future. This time, the Alliance answered by making 10 new decisions at once. Not all of them good. One route failed. One evacuation went late. One council chose badly and had to reverse itself under public anger. A commander lied about casualty numbers and was removed by the same soldiers who had once admired him. The devourer could not eat the civilization. It kept changing in its mouth. The ninth Star Lord, bleeding conquered cities, made its final offer. Join me, not as king, as partner. We can build a moving civilization. One that changes enough to evade the devourer but obeys enough to endure. Lin Jin looked at the Star Lord's wounded body. Inside it, freed cities were fighting their own old obedience. Some would survive, some would not. Freedom had arrived too late for many and painfully for all. You still think endurance is the highest good, Lin Jin said. Extinction is worse. Not always. The Star Lord went silent. Lin Jin's voice hardened. A world that survives by eating its people has already ended. It just keeps moving afterward. The 7 cities repeated the human name. This time, the conquered cities inside the Star Lord repeated their own. The devourer recoiled again. Wounded by multiplicity, Lin Jin understood what had to happen. They could not kill the devourer by becoming a sharper weapon. That would only make them final. They had to force it to choke on unfinished life. He opened the Zero Realm to every linked world. The risk was insane. Enemies could enter. Star-Lord fragments could poison the network. Human fear could collapse the whole field. The councils voted. The vote passed by less than 2%. Jiang Yue looked at the number and groaned. Democracy is going to kill me before the devourer does. Probably, Lin Jin said. The Zero Realm opened. Worlds spoke. Not all friendly. Not all grateful. Some screamed. Some begged. Some cursed humanity for waking them into a war they had forgotten how to fight. But every voice added one more unfinished meaning. The devourer's mouth split. The final battle became possible. Lin Jin turned to the 7th team. To Xiaoman. To his parents. To the Nameless. To Su Wanning. To Jiang Yue. To every city still arguing itself alive. We don't need to win forever. He smiled. Exhausted and bright. We only need to make tomorrow impossible to swallow. Quote, the Civilization Devourer opened wide enough to swallow the horizon. Every alarm failed at once. Not because systems died, but because there was no scale left for danger. South Wall became a line of sparks. White Prison became a wounded route across darkness. The 7 cities became 7 names held in shaking hands. Lin Jin stepped into the Zero Realm for the last time. Not alone. That was the point. Xiaoman walked beside him, carrying doors that no longer belonged only to Earth. Jiang Yue came with an empty cannon over one shoulder because he refused to enter the end of the world unarmed, even symbolically. Su Wanning guided the route. The Nameless guarded the deepest hinge. Lin Jin followed with one hand on the boundary and one hand holding the family channel open. His mother waited there as memory, witness, and warmth. The 7th team surrounded them. Behind them came the cities. Not bodies. Choices. Voices. Names. Arguments. Songs half remembered. Recipes. Trial records. Bad jokes. Last letters. New laws. Children mispronouncing brave words. Prisoners demanding representation. Court officials complaining while opening vaults. Doctors lying that the next bandage would hurt only a little. Humanity entered as unfinished evidence. The devourer bit down. The Zero Realm became white. For one endless second, Lin Jin saw the shape of all endings. He saw humanity enthroned and eaten. Humanity obedient and eaten. Humanity victorious. Fixed into legend. And eaten later. He saw himself as king. Martyr. Monster. Saint. Statue. All of them were easier than living. He chose living. Now, he said, the 7 cities released their names. The conquered worlds released theirs. The Ash Registry opened completely. The White Bone Court dissolved its judgment into witness. Red Prison's final fire became warmth instead of punishment. The Fate Administrator erased its last authority and kept only the corrected records. The royal court broke its oath networks into public trusts. White prison opened every route it had left. The zero rules aligned. No one may become the world for someone else. No rescue may require the rescued to stop being themselves. A world may be protected by many hands, but it may not be owned by one. The final rule rose from all of them. No civilization is complete while even one person can still choose. The rule struck the devourer from inside its mouth. It tried to swallow anyway. Then tomorrow moved. Not one tomorrow. Thousands. Millions. Futures contradicting each other too quickly to consume. A rebuilt wall and a wall left as memorial. Xiaoman older and Xiaoman gone traveling beyond doors. Jiang Yue teaching strategy badly to students who mocked him. Su Wanning mapping routes no one had permission to forbid. Lin Jin cooking terribly at the family table. Lin Jin leaving the city. Lin Jin staying. Children from conquered worlds arguing with Earth children about whose sky had better colors. The devourer choked. The ninth Star Lord, wounded and furious, tried to flee into the confusion. Lin Jin caught its root. The Star Lord looked at him with all its conquered fear. If you destroy me, many worlds collapse. I know. If you spare me, I may return. I know. Then what is your perfect answer? Lin Jin almost laughed. I don't have one. He did not execute the Star Lord. He did not forgive it. He cut its ownership. Every conquered city tore free at once. Some shattered. Some stabilized. Some screamed into new independence with no idea how to stand. Humanity's roots caught as many as they could. Not all. Never all. The story had stopped lying about that. The Star Lord, stripped of ownership, became small enough to be afraid. The devourer tried to consume the freed fragments and swallowed rebellion instead. Names erupted through its body like light through cracked stone. Jiang Yue fired the empty cannon. Nothing came out. He shouted, emotionally. That hit. Xiaoman laughed and cried at the same time. The Zero Realm surged. Lin Jin raised his hand. And millions of hands rose with him. Not under command. Alongside. Together. They cut the Civilization Devourer from the horizon. It did not die like a beast, it lost the ability to define them. The mouth collapsed into retreating star tide. One by one, the stolen futures returned. Not guaranteed. Not safe. Not promised. Possible. The door behind the sky closed. Silence came. Real silence. No chains. No throne. No star pressure. Only wind crossing broken walls and someone. Somewhere. Sobbing because the world had failed to end. Lin Jin fell to his knees. This time, no system demanded he stand. His father sat beside him. Xiaoman leaned against his shoulder. His mother's memory placed a hand over the family channel's table and began to fade. Lin Jin reached for her. Stay. She smiled. You did. Then she was gone. Not erased. Not owned. Not turned into fuel. Gone in the ordinary cruel way. Leaving love behind without asking permission. The tide behind the door retreated for 7 days. During those 7 days, no one knew what victory meant. Refugees came home to streets that did not exist anymore. Soldiers slept in doorways because beds felt suspicious. Children asked whether alarms could be banned by law. The royal court tried to draft a dignified reconstruction charter and was interrupted by angry shelter representatives demanding plumbing first. Jiang Yue supported the plumbing faction. Su Wanning opened the first civilian route beyond the old safe zones. The Nameless stayed at the deepest gate, no longer nameless to themselves. Still blurred to cameras because privacy, they said, was a human right and also funny. The 7th team did not disband. They simply stopped announcing that fact and kept showing up wherever the work was worse. The new summoning era began without a ceremony. One morning, a child summoned a small blue light in a classroom with half a roof. Everyone froze. The old world would have measured it, ranked it, weaponized it, predicted its value. The teacher knelt beside the child and asked, "What do you want to learn about it?" That was how the era began. Not with conquest, with a question. A year later, the Ash Memorial Day was held across 7 cities and dozens of linked worlds. There were no giant statues of Lin Jin. He had threatened to personally remove any that appeared, and Jiang Yue had offered demolition support with suspicious enthusiasm. Instead, the memorial carried names, too many to read in one day. So people took turns. Heroes and cowards, leaders and thieves, the saved and the unsaved, the forgiven and the unforgiven, all recorded without being polished into something easier. Lin Jin stood at the back of the crowd. Xiaoman found him there with 2 bowls of soup. "You are hiding." "I am observing." "You are hiding with posture." He accepted the soup. At a small table later that evening, the family finished half a meal. Not perfectly. Lin Jin complained about the seasoning. Xiaoman ate too fast. Jiang Yue arrived uninvited and claimed emotional jurisdiction. Su Wanning brought route maps to dinner and was banned from unfolding them near food. There was an empty cup for the woman who was gone. No one tried to fill it with purpose. They let it be empty. Years would be hard. Freedom did not repair roads. Consent did not grow food by itself. Arguments did not stop storms. Some rescued worlds would hate Earth. Some human factions would betray the new laws. Some children would grow up resenting the ruins they inherited. But the throne remained empty. The gates remained watched by many hands. And when the stars looked down again, they did not see a king, a weapon, or a finished civilization. They saw a world still choosing. Lin Jin wrote the final line of the public record himself. Not as commander, as witness. Humanity did not fall. At the school with half a roof, Xiaoman sat among children from 3 worlds and explained doors with a seriousness that made her look much older until someone passed her a sweet bun and she became young again immediately. Lin Jin found Lin Jin near the unfinished Memorial Road. "You are hiding again." Observing. "Your sister has already ruled on that excuse." They walked together without needing to fill the quiet. For 20 years, silence had meant distance. Now it meant they had time. At the memorial, Lin Jin stopped before a blank stone. Not every name had been recovered. Some never would be. The blank stone existed for them. And for the humility of a world that had learned too late that records were not the same as remembrance. Lin Jin placed his hand on it. "We still failed many of them." His father nodded. Yes. No comfort followed. The honesty was the comfort. That evening, representatives from 7 cities and linked worlds gathered to seal the public record. They offered Lin Jin the final line because he had refused the throne, broken the crown, opened the Zero Realm, and repeatedly made meetings harder by insisting people be allowed to disagree. He accepted only after the council added a note stating that the final line was witness, not ownership. Jiang Yue called the note annoyingly necessary. Lin Jin dipped the pen. For a moment, he thought about all the endings the world had avoided. Glorious endings, clean endings, obedient endings, endings that would have made better statues. Then he thought of soup, bad songs, unfinished roads, children misusing ancient laws as playground insults, and the empty cup at the family table. He smiled. Lin Jin wrote the final line of the public record himself. Not as commander, as witness. Humanity did not fall.